It is a race against the clock for one of the most critical infrastructure projects in the country and a lifeline for New Jersey commuters. At a meeting this morning for the Gateway Tunnel project, Commissioner Tom Prendergast said contractors have been notified that construction on the Hudson Rail Tunnel will stop on February 6th if additional federal funding doesn't become available, and work will begin winding down on both sides of the river today if the money isn't unfrozen. Now, the pause started in the fall when President Trump announced the Gateway Tunnel was terminated. Work, though, did continue, but now the funds look like they're drying up. And at today's meeting, Senator Chuck Schumer and Congressman Josh Gottheimer urged the president to unfreeze the money. It all comes after the House voted last week to appropriate another $700 million to the project, which has had broad bipartisan support over the last several years. Joining me for all the latest on it is our Washington, D.C. correspondent, Ben Hulak. Ben, good to see you. No shortage of things to talk about here. So project leaders warned back in the fall that construction was going to grind to a halt. These are union jobs, as everyone was reminding folks of today. Lots of money that's been poured into it. And now here we are. What's the issue here? The current funding is running dry?
That is not the issue. The issue comes down to one man, and that man is President Donald Trump. He has long had a personal vendetta with Chuck Schumer. These are two New Yorkers from outer boroughs, Chuck Schumer from Brooklyn. Donald Trump was born in Queens, and they're having this rough and tumble fight over the future of Gateway funding. Schumer has fought for this project for decades, and Trump has really relished twisting this verbal knife in Schumer's side to deny him a victory over the Gateway project. There is money available, in other words. I would also underscore here that on the Hill, this is a project that has bipartisan support. Elise Stefanik, she's a Republican congresswoman from upstate New York, put out a statement after this funding cleared. There's about $700 million that is bound, assuming Congress passes spending legislation, for the tunnel project. Now, Stefanik said basically this is bipartisan and gave a shout out to her fellow New York State Republicans for pushing to include this money. So it's not just Republicans, not just Democrats, I should say, who want this. It all comes down to Donald Trump, who is dead set against the project.
Yeah, and I mean, we should note he spends a considerable amount of time in New York and, of course, in New Jersey. He has a golf club here. And so in the past, he had emphasized that he would be behind this project, although it's been in fits and starts during his first presidency and again now, but that ultimately he was convinced that he saw the need. How down to the wire might this get?
Well, so we could really, the big question is there money that will flow out of Congress at all? There is money, basically, if Trump gives us the green light, the money can flow pretty fast. The other question looming large is, what does Congress do with its current spending talks? Right now, the House passed a bundle of bills late last week and left town. The Senate is here sort of digging out of the snow in Washington, D.C., and is debating the bills the House sent over. The sticking point is actually all down to security funding, Homeland Security funding. And if that is enough to sink this broader spending package, then it would actually imperil the funding for the Hudson Tunnel project. It would also imperil funding for transit agencies for FIFA for the upcoming World Cup. We know the final will be hosted in New Jersey, and a whole host of other issues that are not nearly as controversial.
So, Ben, I mean, as you mentioned, the Senate is there. It appears anyway that Democrats are definitely poised to allow for at least a partial government shutdown for that separate political fight over the ICE and DHS funding. What are you hearing from members about that and how this could all really fall apart?
This all could fall apart pretty fast and pretty easily. Cory Booker and Andy Kim, the two senators from New Jersey, both Democrats, are dead set against any sort of funding that would increase, any sort of package that increases funding for ICE. I would underscore, though, here, and this is something a lot of folks are missing, there is funding from a Republican law that was passed into law over the last summer that included $178 billion for DHS overall. And DHS is the parent agency of ICE and Customs and Border Protection. Those are the two main agencies that have been out arresting people on American streets, some documented, some undocumented. But even if Democrats could block all funding for ICE and for DHS overall, the agency is still running on this bank of billions and billions and billions of dollars that are allocated for the next 4 years. In other words, Republicans thought ahead about this and put this money aside for the rest of Donald Trump's presidency. They were thinking ahead back last summer about Democratic efforts to block ICE funding and other security funding.
Wow. I mean, when you put it in those terms, it's a pretty stark situation that they're going to be left to contend with. What are you talking with members about, Ben, when it comes to largely this spending bill and other points that may hold it up or block it entirely?
It's really down to how the Senate can get 60 votes. And Democrats, including moderate and more centrist Democrats, are dug in their opposition to, at a minimum, cut ICE funding or keep it flat and rein in the agency in some way. So there is a little money, a few $1 million, which in federal terms is a rounding error effectively, to scrutinize the agency more intensely. For example, body cameras would be funded in part, but also that doesn't necessarily mean these body cameras will be worn or turned on when people are interacting with ICE agents. So that's the main sticking point. But this is a massive spending bill that actually is sort of subtly a rebuke to Donald Trump. He came in wanting deep cuts to essentially across the board to just about every agency except for the Pentagon and the Veteran Affairs Administration. And what Congress has done is come back and said, you know what, we're going to write our own bill, our own law, and we're actually going to increase a lot of budgets for agencies that you wanted to slash.
All right, Ben Hulack for us on the Hill. Ben, good to talk to you as always. Thanks so much.
Of course.